What's up guys, Alex from McVick Games here, and today I'm going to be showing off my first place draft tournament deck profile. We went to a draft tournament last night where they gave us 4 packs, and they actually did the real draft style where you rotated cards, and every person took a pack, and then you give the pack to the left, and so on and so forth, and then you build a deck out of that. So the rules were you build a 40 card deck. You can play any color and any amount of card in that color. So if you pulled like 6 Cinderella for some reason, you could play 6 Cinderella. So I ended up going undefeated, and I got 5 packs. So I'm going to show off what I built and some of my thoughts on how to build a decent draft deck. So if you go to a local tournament that does a draft, then you might have a general idea of what you might want to think about while building a deck. So starting off with my 1-drops, I ended up getting her in one of my packs. So I was very happy about that. So I just took her, one, because she's valuable, and she's a really good 1-drop in general. Being able to sing songs for 3. It lets you play like cards like this. Late game or early game, I was able to actually sing it on turn 2, which was really solid. Then I just drafted Tiana and the Queen. So Tiana is a 1-drop. Card's fine. I'd rather just, you need 1-drop so that you can start the game. And then I drafted the Queen just in case I pulled the big Queen later in the game. So only 4 of them, so not too many. I wish I could have gotten 1 more, but deck ended up working out, and I ended up seeing them when I needed, because your mulligan's still the same. You draw 7, you mulligan in a 40 card deck, so you're going to see like whatever cards you need really often. So only 4 1-drops. Now go on to the 2-drops. Play double Hades, double Mini, Enchantress, Nana, Cinderella. So out of these, I end up grabbing a Cinderella just in case I pulled a big Cinderella. I got Nana because the ability is kind of cool, being able to remove all damage from chosen character if you play a Floodborn, and I end up getting 6 Floodborn, so I'm like, oh, let's see if this works out. Never actually played the card, it was just ink, but it's another 2-drop. Enchantress is really cool because she gains Challenger 3 when she's being challenged. So she's going to whack almost any early drop, and questing for 2 is really, really solid. 2 mini, mainly because 3 power early in the game I felt is really, really good, and being able to outlike decent cards is pretty solid. And this card, absolutely insane. This card works with like cards like this or cards like this extremely well, mainly because you can now run over big things and then you don't even lose the card, and then this card can safely quest. So if you are going to a draft, I'd recommend putting Hey in your deck if you're able to get it. I think this card's absolutely insane, and it was probably one of the MVPs of the tournament. I played 7 of them, so I tried making a nice even wheel, going from, that's where I wanted 5 of these, but going from 4 to 7, and then I also play 7 3-drops. Going to the 3-drops, I just kind of went for cards that did stuff, because unfortunately there's a lot of vanillas, and I'd rather not get the vanillas. So I played 2 Merlins. This card's insane. I was actually able to do a combo with a card later in the game, and I'll show that. But just giving your guy +3 during that turn, you pair that with Hey, you're just going crazy. And then when he leaves the field, he gives a guy, so you can like crash into something, give another guy +3. You're just able to out things. And he's really good being able to out resist monsters too, being able to give one of your guys +3. 2 Fairy Godmother. I played her because I play the Cinderella cards, but also I ended up getting a Fairy Godmother. I'll show that later. So this card was really, really good in that aspect, where I wanted to be able to shift. There's no baby Fairy Godmother, which is unfortunate, so I wasn't able to actually capitalize on the shift too. But just having the option out there is pretty good. And her stats aren't really, really bad for a 3-drop. She's just like Wardrobe, but like better because she has that extra stat. Going on to the concept of 3-drops that just kind of did something, Gaston and Magic Room. This actually came up with Resist 1 once, which is really solid. And then Gaston, I ended up pulling Big Gaston, so I can just play over top, and I did that once, and that ended up just winning me the game right there, because Shift is just such a strong thing. And then Singer 5, I pulled him because of that ability, and I just got the Gaston later. It's okay. It never really came up, but in theory, it's good. Going for more of them, and then I play 1 Rhea. I ended up getting a hollow super Rhea, so then I just grabbed this after, just so I could potentially shift over top of it. I never actually shifted or played these cards, the Rheas at all, but they were like in theory good because I'd rather have like more shift. but definitely MVPs are of this category in generic, like draft decks, is Merlin. So Merlin and Hey are putting a lot of work that tournament. 7 of them again. Just trying to wheel up, playing as many cards as consistently possible, not playing many uninkables. Going into the 4-drops, Jafar, Arthur, Dr. Facilier, Merlin, the Nock, and Elsa. So out of the 4-drops, the cards that are notable are Elsa, Merlin, and Dr. Facilier. The rest of these weren't super great. I mainly inked Nox. He wasn't like super great. Questing for 2 and his stats are actually really solid, so I kind of liked him, but his questing ability only really came up once. And then Jafar, I grabbed him because I thought I could potentially get a baby Jafar later, and it never came up. So he just became like another okay 4-drop. So those cards were like the worst 4-drops, but then the really good 4-drops were Dr. Facilier. He has evasive, and he can tech for 4, which means he can beat this card, Ray. And Ray is a huge threat in this format. So being able to just tack over the Dr. Facilier, Dr. Facilier attacking over Ray was really solid. Merlin gains 1 on entry and gains 1 when it leaves. Really solid. Being able to just win games off gaining 1 lore is really good, and his stats are really solid. And then Elsa, this card, insane. The probably best 4-drop in the set, maybe even in the game. Challenger 6 is great because you're able to get over a lot of like those big resist characters. Like you'd pair this with like Charge or something, and then you're beating Elsa, which is insane. So these 4-drops were just decent characters that were able to just deal with stuff very easily, and that was their like main concept. Going on to the 5-drops now. I play 6 of this, so still a large count, so I could actually see and wield properly. So this card was insane. I ended up getting this. Someone ended up giving it to me, so I was like, whoa, that's insane. This card's ability is just so stupid. This card's absolutely broken. So it's just self-explanatory. You have to play this card, and it's a legendary. Never played this card. In theory, it's okay 5-drop, so I played it for that reason. Pete, I'll explain the combo I did before. And then Ray, this card is stupid. Evasive, and for a 3-drop, if you play against a person that didn't draft any evasive monsters, you can just win the game off him alone. So that power is just stupid on its own. Going on to the combo with Pete real quick. So I think my board was Pete. I had a Queen, a Cinderella, and then I had her and a Arthur. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Maybe 1 less. I think my board was this because I had, yeah, so I had 7. So what the combo was I was at 11, so I needed 9. So I go for Fairy Godmother. I quest for 2, puts me at 13. Then I quest Cinderella to put me at 14. Then I quest Arthur to put me up to 16. And because he gained 2, that puts him at 5. I ended up having a Merlin in my hand. So I was able to play Merlin, give him +3, which puts his attack stat at 7. And then I was able to quest for 4 for exact game. And just that surprise factor of like the Merlin was just absolutely insane. And it was cool actually being able to do that combo because Pete, it's kind of hard in a constructive format to actually capitalize on Pete. So those were the 5-drops. Not as many as the others, mainly because once you start getting up to higher cards, people are going to take them more, and you're not going to have more of a option. But definitely out of the 5-drops, I pulled really solid ones between like Pete and Fairy Godmother. And Ray. Ray was just stupid on its own. 6-drops, Gaston, Rhea, Pacha, and Basil. So I grabbed Basil in the draft with the same concept of Rhea, where I'm like, oh, these are cool shiftable characters, and if I'm able to take them, then people might leave their baby counterparts because their baby counterparts aren't really good. I end up getting that for Rhea. Never actually played the card because the card isn't super great. But if I got that for Basil, that would have been really good draw power because there's not many good draw power in a constructive format like this. So that was my theory with that. Pacha, big stats late game. You need bombs late game because there's no spot removal. So sticking a card like Pacha, you're just going to like win the game just on his own. And Gaston, consistency, and he's just an overall decent card, and I had the baby Gaston, so I was able to shift over top of him and add like cards like Hey Hey or like whatever card you actually need to your hand, which is like really cool. All these cards performed okay. I ended up playing a Basil and winning a game, and then Gaston ended up winning me 2 games. So these guys actually put in work. These cards I just never played, and I actually inked her a couple of times. Going on to the best card I pulled, I ended up getting this in one of my first packs, so that was my like first card I just took. This card is just stupid, and the fact that I had both, one of each Cinderella, was wild. And it came up once. I played it, and then the opponent has no cards in hand, and they top deck that yellow card that just says out a guy with 5 attack, and it just beat the Cinderella. So that was unfortunate. But in theory, like, this card is literally just the best card in the game that you can get in a draft, because there's no way to out this card. And if you have Cinderellas to go on top of it, you're just cooking. So that's it for the monsters. Like, majority of my deck is monsters because I just wanted to put pressure, and there's no border removal. So if you just go wide, it's really hard for them to catch up. Now going on to like the spell cards and actions and stuff. I just kind of like wanted to play decent ones that were like generally spot removal because there's not much spot removal. So that's why I played 2 charge, and then I played an improvise. These are in theory like pseudo spot removal. So this is draw power because it gives one of your guys like +1 and they draw a card. So if you give it to like a Hey Hey, you're able to beat over like a 3 drop and then add Hey back and draw a card. So like that's really good. And then like same thing with this, being able to give one of your like weaker guys +2/+2 for a resistant challenger. It goes a long way, and you can actually start outing some decent characters. And then they're inkable, so there's really no downside to them. So honestly, this card, I think if you are playing a draft, very, 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 very good. And I would recommend picking this up. And this card's okay for draw power. Next is the Storm Rage on. Once again, more like spot removal, not too many of it. And it's also a let you draw. And it's a song, so you're able to sing it for 3. Going back to why it was cool with Cinderella, because I was able to play the Cinderella on turn 1. And then on turn 2, they played... So I went first. I play Cinderella. They play a 1-drop. My turn goes. I just beat the 1-drop and I draw a card, and tempo just goes in my favor. So this card was kind of cool. Really only played it once, but like in actual decks, this card is going to be really, really stupid. Especially with Rapunzel. But that is for another video. Then last couple cards, I played this actually once, and I was able to get out Cinderella. It's good in theory, especially if you have low drops. You're able to get your guys out really quickly, and then tempo can just go in your favor. Only resolved it once, though. So, like, that's that. This card's draw power, in theory, especially with a bunch of, like, decent butts in the deck. It's good. It feels a little underwhelming. But other than that, this card's really solid, and you need draw power. And then the last card in the deck is Croquette Mallet. It's pseudo spot removal. I also didn't play too many uninkables, so I'm like, well, might as well play an uninkable that could potentially be good. Like, you pair this with, like, a Hey Hey, and then now you're adding the Hey Hey back, and you're rushing, and you're beating a guy, and you're just gaining decent tempo from there. So, out of, like, all the uninkables, I'm like, well, I feel like all these are solid, and then the rest are inkable, so if they're a bad card, I can just put in my inkwall, while these all seem like they do enough on their own. So overall, the tournament was pretty fun. The deck performed really, really well. Only loss was when the opponent sacked me and they outed the Cinderella. And from there, they just like top deck crazy. Every other game, I just like completely won. So just wanted to give you guys my thoughts and my deck profile of how I did well at a draft tournament. So if you're going to any draft tournaments this weekend, definitely try to go for low drops and take as many of those high drops as you can because they're very far and few between. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Peace.